Boy, oh boy, let's do this. First thing first, the name is the LUI. Secondly, the game is a game of bodybuilding. But thirdly, Kevin Levrone on a daily, a quarter of a century ago, before even he was a pro. As a matter of fact, before he was big, actually. Well, let's take a look at that. This was in the NPC 1991. He was still young, a specific haircut. Now, don't get it twisted. He was big at first, and then he became more aesthetic, more diced, and then he became big again. So, really different eras. We'll try to pinpoint them one picture after the other. This is the same year. He was doing better versus the late Quadzilla, may he rest in peace. We're talking about Paul Di Maio. Quadzilla, for obvious reasons. The quads were absolutely stupendous. Look at that sweep of the outer head. It was absolutely to be saluted. He had a tremendous tricep as well, that we know. Right, so Kevin was big here, admittedly, not the most conditioned. He was somehow the rookie, but his muscle mass was absolutely loyal. Side chest, look at the way he does that side chest. I mean, the left shoulder is high, as high as his ear, right? And he brings the arm a little bit down. It's kind of an old school fashion. Don't forget, we were coming off the Lee Haney era, and Lee Haney stayed in the continuity of the Arnold Schwarzenegger of old, right? I mean, he come from the 80s, baby please, and there was no clear separation between the golden era in a sense, so they were still posing in this fashion, which was properly saluted. But remember this pose, remember how the shoulder is high. Proceed, haha, shall we? Abs and thighs. He was still a mass monster, right? A rookie, but mass monster of Kevin Levrone in this NPC championship right here. Definitely massive. Another picture actually of him and the late actually Paul and Flex, the Sultan of Symmetry Wheeler, right? But now though, this was a year later, 1992. We already at the Olympia. Look at him, he was absolutely smaller, but absolutely crazily more conditioned. Look at the cheekbones. The death face was absolutely on top. The striations, I mean the feathers on those triceps were just out of this world. The midsection was too loyal, if you ask the idea. Look at that. Have you seen Kevin Levrone in his bigger days like this? No, he was absolutely the craziest, most conditioned guy ever. To be noted, in the same year, he competed in the Night of Champions, right, which is called nowadays the New York Pro, if I'm not mistaken, and he won it. He won with this condition, the Night of Champions. Then he went to Helsinki to collide with a British guy who had a first name Dorian, and his last name I think was Yates, if you guys remember. Again, the fashion of posing. So the opposite shoulder is absolutely in high fashion, and he brings the other one down. I'm not getting it twisted. I said smaller, more conditioned, but the roundness was still there. Look at these muscle bellies. The biceps was absolutely loyal. Tricep is a sight to be seen, but the midsection is just fingers everywhere. Fingers everywhere. Look at the conditioning, right? I mean, the triceps was absolutely stupendous. Again, we're coming off the Lee Haney era. Nobody was showing them glutes, but they were absolutely diced to the socks out of the box in Kevin's case. Most muscular pose. He was doing this kind of crossed crab pose. Very efficient, if you ask me. Look at the death face again, right? This was kind of the youngster, one of the most epic years, most epic versions of Kevin Levrone, admittedly aesthetically representing on a daily, if you ask me. Right, this was with his training partner Porter Cottrell. If I do recall, this guy was a fireman. He was a fireman. Again, the same fashion, having the shoulder up, right? Midsection is absolutely loyal. This is Milos Sarcev, the Frenchman Thierry Pastel, 8 packs all day and every day. And the Black Prince of them all, Robbie Robinson, coming from the 70s through the 80s and still doing battle in the 90s. Baby, please. And that's what time it is. This guy was pretty much the Dexter Jackson of his era. He never ages, he never deceases, and that's what time it is. Midsection of Kevin again. Wow, look at the midsection. Absolutely to be properly saluted. The back of Porter Cottrell was amazing. I think he placed 6th back then, if I'm not mistaken. We will see the front lat spread of Mr. Kevin Levrone in an upcoming picture. It was one of the most loyal he ever had, if you ask the LUI. Same pose, we got Thierry Pastel doing a vacuum pose, a please, and the front lat spread, but then again, he showed one of the best midsections ever. This is where he won, actually. The night of champion with the late Joe Weider, the master blaster. Porter Cottrell, again, front double bicep. Midsection was absolutely loyal. Nonetheless, as far as I remember, Kevin never had a bubble gut, even in his big Fona era. When he became big, never bubble gut, right? This is what he won that night of champions, and he went to collide with that Brit who came with the momentum. Dorian was coming with the momentum. Why? I'm going to talk about it in a few. So this is the Yates. This was in Helsinki. Yates placed first, as we guys know, and Levrone placed second. Was it a robbery? Hell no. Hell no. Dorian deserved to win. He came with a momentum, as I mentioned, because he placed a solid second to Lee Haney in 1991. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, he was better than Lee Haney in 91. But you guys know the unwritten rule. Pretty much, you need to knock the champion to be the champion. And quite frankly, in the legs department, he beat him. And from the back, which is the strength of Lee Haney, Dorian is Dorian-esque, if you ask me, right? So that's what's up. The Brit was also very conditioned, death mask all day and every day. This gentleman, when he was on stage, his feet were hurting because the very cushion, the fat cushion that us normal human beings have underneath our feet, melted completely. So he was walking on his bones and it was kind of hurtful, right? But the thing is, what I'm telling you today is that if Kevin Levrone would have been Mr. Olympia by inch, because he was very close, the knot could have went his way. If he would have won, probably we've never had the big Fona era, which was ushered by this Brit here, by this Dorian Yates in 1993, because in my opinion, he felt somehow threatened by Kevin Levrone being so close. So I said, bro, I might as well go ahead and leave humanity. Haha, I mean, baby, please. And that's what time it is. So this was it, a very epic Mr. Olympia 1992 in Helsinki, right? Today, all of them, as you guys know, are in Vegas. But what goes in Vegas stays in Vegas. So Kevin was absolutely ecstatically representing, bro. We got Sonny Schmidt, may he rest in peace. This guy actually won the Mr. Olympia Masters. And then guy next to him, Vince Taylor, won the Mr. Olympia Masters as well. Vince Taylor gloomed when he was old, actually. You can see Lee Labrada in the back. And this guy here, you know his guy? This guy is Ronnie Coleman, Lou Ferrigno, coming from the 70s, baby, please. Thierry Pastel with a world-class midsection 8-pack all day and every day. And Momo Benaziza, may he rest in peace. Proceed, haha, shall we? And did we? So we have that crazy midsection of the Frenchman, Thierry Pastel, world class until today. Kevin was absolutely diced to the socks. So was Porter Cottrell, right? There we go. See, even compared to Dorian, I mean, the craziest front lat spread of them all, Kevin Levrone was still not bad. And if you ask me, in the legs department, the sweep of the outer head, the roundness was absolutely more loyal than that of Dorian, if you ask me, and even that of Ray, right? So it was very, very close. We have Momo Benaziza, the Algerian giant killer, one of the best backs ever. Lee Labrada coming. He was second, as you guys know, in the Lee Haney era, but with these newcomers, you know, he had to retire. He did so in 93, if I'm not mistaken. He could not keep up with the young cats, and Dorian was coming very strong. And in '93, quite frankly, he was just too big. He was just too big, so everybody had to readjust to him. As we guys know, proceed, haha, shall we? There we go. He still does this. He did this pose this year as well. Quite a signature pose, but back then he could move about. He was absolutely small. Oh, look, who do we have here? Ronnie Coleman. When he was still small, nobody actually saw this guy coming as the next Mr. Olympia. Personally, I was following bodybuilding. I've never thought he would be Mr. Olympia. As a matter of fact, I do recall a magazine, actually, article, Flex magazine, the French version, was they were saying this guy is a melting pot. He's a mix of everything. He's a mix of body parts that connect without any fluidity to it, without any synchronism, without any beauty in a sense. He's not efficiently built. They were dinging him back then. But the first time the LUI actually noticed him significantly was in 1996 when he won the Canadian Grand Prix versus his idol. And his idol was Flex Wheeler back then. So this guy has beaten Flex Wheeler. And I said, wow, this guy is getting good. And then, as we guys know, he became even better in '98, and he won that Mr. Olympia, right? The TTs were not loyal to that of the late Mohammed Ben Aziza. He passed away not long after this, actually, in another Grand Prix. I think it was the Dutch Grand Prix, if I'm not mistaken. May he rest in peace. To be noted, he's the only guy who has beaten Dorian Yates in the Night of Champion 1990. The other guy being Lee Haney, of course, right? So two guys have beaten Dorian. This guy, Momo, and also Lee Haney, right? From the biceps of Mr. Lee Labrada, absolutely loyal, if you ask me. Now remember this pose, because there will be a very big contrast with the upcoming pictures. Boom, boom. Huge difference. 92 versus 97. Startling difference. So Kevin Levrone had to readjust and adjust his mass game. As a matter of fact, he became big in 95, 96, 97, and so on and so forth. He left a humanity. So different eras. This was because of Dorian Yates. He became this way. And even with this, he placed third, actually. The second guy was Nasser El somebody. So two different ball games. You can notice that the arms became big. You can almost say overgrown, oversized. The midsection is not as diced, but then again, he left a humanity. The pose stayed loyal. One of the best, most muscular pose with joint hand. I mean, there is no void. The saturation is absolutely startling. It is mesmerizing if you ask the LUI. Look at that. Wow. Just properly executed. Arms are oversized. But then again, big orexia all day and every day. That era was the big fauna era. Right? Look at that. Wow. Just balls everywhere. Right? This was 95, if I'm not mistaken already. Or was it 96? Anyway, no, 95. 96, I think. Yeah, 95 for sure. Because 96... he shaved his hair, and the guy behind him, may he rest in peace, was Andreas Munzer, who passed away in 96, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it? Wow. Now this is the pose where he won the Night of Champions 1992. Front lat spread. Front lat spread. I think it was the best front lat spread he had. His arms were not small, but they were still human. The proportions, in my reckoning, were a bit more loyal. So the lat spread was absolutely properly executed. Please remember the U effect. There is a little bit of a sway to them. You know, they curve. There is a curve in these lats. So it's not a V, but it is a U effect because they curve. Do remember that and proceed, haha, shall we? Here he left humanity. 1996 Mr. Olympia. You can appreciate the bubble, trouble gut, the bonanza of Mr. Olympia back then, Dorian Yates. His gut was absolutely not loyal. We have the ex-power lifter Mike Francois. We have a vacuum of Sean Ray and another guy who can do vacuums, to the left is Chris Cormier. To be noted, Cormier is also a French name, which should be pronounced Cormier. Cormier. So Chris Cormier. François is also a French name. Proceed. Haha. Shall we? There we go. We arrived to, was it 97? 96, I think, or yeah, 96 when he left humanity. We can notice that the front lat spread, quite frankly, is not as loyal as this one. This one is definitely more efficient. The eyes are drawn automatically to these lats because they're not overshadowed by these overgrown arms, like a little bit here. And remember I told you about the side chest? Now, in the big fauna era, he does not drag that shoulder up. Both of them are up actually, and they're almost parallel. See? Almost parallel. So different fashion of posing. He was clearly arm dominant. He was giving the people what they want. If you do recall, in the first actually side chest I showed you, there were fingers in the midsection. Right now, that might as well be there. We cannot see them. The guy is too saturated. These arms are overshadowing the whole package, if you ask the LUI. And here, this was actually in 2001 or 2002. This is a not properly executed front lat spread, not saluted. You guys remember the U effect? The U effect is gone this time around, and we have a straight line. Right now is rather a V. Not very efficient. He reminds me of Mike Francois. He was doing this kind of front lat spread. He is no longer curvy. There is no sway to it. These arms are over dominant. And as a testament, the current Mr. Olympia, Mr. Phil Heath, has that issue from the front. He cannot spread them because the arms are overshadowed and they're over dominant. That is what's up. Before the LUI lets you go, let's go back in time and watch a video from 1991 Nationals where he was still small and aesthetic, and please admire the back development. You see the back just proper. Could move it back. Very old school. One of the oldest videos. See how he poses? The side chest. The opposite shoulder is always up. It's static. Fingers everywhere in the midsection as well. But the back certainly is the most compelling body part to me. You see he does a lat spread when the back does a bicep. You will see that the eyes of the cobra are still there. It will be all day and every day. There you go. If you continue with the structure, it will be different. See? Cobra! See the cobra there? Here's the cobra, big cobra right there. Properly executed. See the cobra effect? Properly executed. Fingers everywhere. That's what's up. So, if Kevin Levrone would have stayed somehow like this, and the knot would have went his way instead of delineating Helsinki 1992, most likely, who knows, there would have never been a big fauna era. We've never had Nasser El-Sambari, Marcus Rule, Ronnie Coleman 2003, and today's big fauna will never reign supreme as it is right now. By the same token, would have never had classic physique categories, baby please, because nobody would have complained. They would have stayed aesthetic in a sense. Golden era, there would have been a continuity from Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lee Haney, and then this guy, right? Probably he would have had a winning spree of 6 or 7 Mr. Olympia. And then who knows who would have been Mr. Olympia, right? Definitely not Ronnie Coleman, and definitely not Jay Cutler, and probably Phil Heath, but the first version of Phil Heath when he was small, not the current Phil Heath, right? Because the history would have been different. That's what's up. The LUI does bestow a proper level of salute upon thee, and it was on a daily basis, baby please, and that's what time it is.